about the work camps, we had the experience of having them help us 2 times. They painted the house one time, and they built that deck, and I just enjoyed them. And mostly I was at work in the thrift shop, so Warren was home, and he loved them. So everything worked out just fine. I appreciated the help. And they done a really good job to be kids, and of course they had some adults that was the leaders, and they were really experienced in what they done. So it all turned out good. And they do work camps do a lot of good.
So growing up in East Tennessee, we had some great friends, but we always looked forward to the summer times because we would have church groups or senior high church groups come in and spend a week at a time at our Sunset Gap Community Center. I remember groups from Texas and Ohio and Michigan and lots of other states, Texas and all, and they would come and spend, and they would either do a Bible school or they would do community service projects and things. And when I was younger, my older sisters would spend a lot of time with those kids, and I couldn't figure out why, but as I got older and I got to know and meet the kids, I just saw how special that was and how those students that came into our community had such a huge impact on all of the local kids. And we always look forward each summer to meeting all these new wonderful friends.
Sunset Gap was known as a mission of the Presbyterian Church, and so youth groups from many Presbyterian churches would sign up for a week at a time and come, and they would do whatever work was pointed out for them to do, whether it was establishing a water system up on the ridge or Bible school or working around with projects that Bob and the others had decided needed to be done. The work campers were interesting. Each one sort of had its own personality. And I enjoyed meeting them as well as their leaders. I was working outside of the community in early childhood at that point for many of those years. And so I would get in on the supper times with work camps and get to know individuals, and enjoyed that very much. The adults were often surprised at the work that was going on at the center, and really seemed to enjoy their time with their kids and our kids at the center.
Well, the bunch that came here were so nice. They were from South Carolina, and it was hot weather when they painted this room. They did an excellent job on it. And before they left, they wanted me to make them a lunch of pinto beans and cornbread, and I did. And they enjoyed that.
It was a great pleasure that I get to work with all the mission teams. They used to be called work camp groups, but now they're mission teams. They come from all over the United States. They go out in the community. They work on home repairs. They do porches, ramps, and steps. We do not do indoor items anymore because it's so hard for a group to come in here and stay for 5 days and get that done. So we have changed that a little bit, so we only do like yard work, ramps, porches, and we have a lot of seniors and elderly, and we are so blessed to be able to do that.
Martin Riley, who's the pastor down at Pleasant Valley Church come to the house one day and wanted to know if I'd care to come and help with the work camp groups the following week. They wanted me to haul material to the groups that was out working on the jobs. So I said, yeah, I'll come and work a week. Well, that week turned into about 10 years. I hauled material, hauled trash to the dumpster and everything, and they just kept being more and more to do, and I'd step in and do whatever needed doing. And finally, I was just about in charge of all the work camp groups, showing the jobs to the people and take them out and supervise and help them get started. I really enjoyed it. I worked hard at that, but it was when you went home at night, you felt good. Felt like you'd accomplished something. You'd put a better roof over somebody's head and a ramp for them to get in and out of their house, and it just made you feel good.
I cooked for the work camp groups. Most of the people liked the food. The food that they enjoyed the most was the fried chicken, the potato salad, the watermelon, and that I prepared for them to take on the picnics. And the banana pudding was their favorite. We didn't use any paper products. We had to hand wash all the dishes, the plates, cups, bowls, and silverware. When I started cooking for the work camp groups, we only had one stove and one refrigerator, and sometimes I had to cook for as many as 50 people. We didn't have enough storage space, but for 3 to 4 meals, so I had to grocery shop every day. The work camp groups mostly did repairs, painting around the center, and the elderly and handicapped in the community. As a matter of fact, they did some repair work on my deck a couple of weeks ago. The work camp groups wanted to learn as much about us as we did them.
Well, work camp groups have been coming in for decades and decades, and they wanted to come in and do the projects. And in the 60s that I remember a lot, mid to late 60s and all through the 70s, they wanted an experience with Appalachian culture. Some of them wanted to go to the most remote part of Cott County and Sevier County. They wanted to go to Grassy Ford, and they wanted to go to parts of Sevier County that was real remote. They wanted to build a porch or build a new set of steps for elderly people. So they wanted to go out. Some of them would go out and do projects in the community. The directors would let them know ahead of time what was needed. And sometimes they'd bring the materials, if it was plumbing and stuff like that. Sometimes they'd buy it locally. And sometimes they'd do work at Sunset Gap. They worked on the building. They worked on the grounds. Sometimes they'd help mow. They'd help shore up a bank. They'd do beautification. They would buy bulbs and plant flowers. They'd paint inside the center. But they would go, and then Director Davis was in the Kiwanis, so sometimes he would take the leaders with him to the Kiwanis luncheon on Tuesday, and they'd present programs. He also took the international students down there when they were in. So that was a lot. I remember a couple summers, I think they had 7 or 8 work camp groups, just week after week after week. And then, of course, at that time, they had staff that come in and work. Sometimes they'd work for a year or two and be the lead staff person, kind of like administrative assistant. And then sometimes they'd just be there for the summer. A lot of times it was college students or fresh out of college. A few times it was a married couple that was there. I remember there were 8 or 9 one summer. And one of them was a nurse. Her name was June Shaw. Remember, she was there. She helped doctors. And a neat thing about the old craft house that was there, it was actually a tuberculosis center. People actually died in it, but Daddy said they went there and got shots and stuff. But I remember a lot, Rich Gammons, John MacArthur, Rick Bell, Joe Warren, Rich Reeves, David Ross, and many, many more that I can't remember their names right now while I'm doing the interview. But they were very friendly people who were interested in doing good and experiencing the Appalachian culture. They'd come from New York, California, sometimes another country, Texas, Chicago. But you look at the Appalachian South, Mountain South in the 60s and 70s, the experiences they were getting. Some of them wrote articles about it. Remember one lady, Sylvia Salmon, she was blind, but man, she could play a guitar. And me and her got along so good. She had a German Shepherd C&I dog. But she loved baseball, and I did too. Me and her would sit and talk, and I hated the Yankees, and she liked the Yankees. And she'd tell me stories about Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio and some of those greats, because she was probably 15 or 20 years older than me. She had never seen a baseball game, but she listened to it, and she read in Braille. She's a great singer. And they would usually do square dances and community potluck dinners while the work camp group was there, usually once a month. And I remember some of them would call square dances. They taught us to do the Virginia reel, and we learned a lot of things from that. So it was just marvelous times, and it was good for us to interact with people outside our 10, 15 mile radius that most of us didn't go outside of. Most families just stayed close to here and went to town, either Sevierville or Newport, and bought their groceries and stuff. That was about it, or little country stores.